All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about how Brazil is trying to build a really important bridge. Now, this isn't a bridge of steel and concrete, it's one made of laws and partnerships, and it's designed to connect the country's incredible world of science with its industrial economy.
And that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Brazil is, by all accounts, a scientific powerhouse. They produce top-tier research with brilliant minds and fantastic public universities. But for some reason, all that amazing science hasn't really been translating into market-changing products or a big economic boom. So what's going on? What's causing that disconnect?
Well, to understand the solution, we first have to get a really clear picture of the problem. And that problem is what we're calling the Great Innovation Divide.
This chart really gets right to the heart of it. You can see the public sector, that's the universities and research institutes, they're investing a pretty solid amount in research and development. But then you look over at the business sector, and that spending is way lower. And what's more, it's been stubbornly flat for years. This creates this huge gap where amazing public research just can't find the private investment it needs to become a real-world product. So you end up with this picture of two completely isolated islands. On one island, you have all this world-class science happening. And on the other, you have this whole industry that desperately needs to innovate to stay competitive. And what's separating them? Well, it's this giant chasm filled with red tape, confusing legal gray areas, and just a ton of uncertainty about how to even start working together.
So how do you cross a chasm like that? Well, you need a bridge. And in this case, you need a legal blueprint to build one.
And that blueprint has a name, the Marco Legal de Ciência, Tecnologia and Inovação, or just MLCTI for short. You can think of it as the master plan for the bridge. It's a set of laws, modernized in 2016, designed for one specific reason: to make it way easier, safer, and less bureaucratic for public research institutions to team up with private companies.
And the goals of this blueprint are all about tearing down the barriers in that chasm. We're talking about simplifying partnerships, letting companies use the university's amazing labs and equipment, making it possible for public researchers to actually work on industry projects, and, this is a big one, creating real legal security so that the people in charge feel safe signing on the dotted line.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint. Now let's look at how this bridge actually works, because it isn't just a simple, single path. It's more like a multi-lane highway for innovation.
You know, not every collaboration is the same. A simple lab test is totally different from a huge, multi-year project to invent something brand new. So the innovation bridge needs different lanes for different kinds of traffic. The MLCTI was designed with this in mind, creating specific legal tools for specific jobs. Let's break down the two main lanes you see here. First up, Lane 1 is for specialized services. This is perfect when a company needs to use a university's fancy equipment or expert knowledge for a quick job. The whole point is to use knowledge that already exists, so you're not really expecting to create new intellectual property. The research team gets a nice bonus for their work. But Lane 2, the partnership agreement, that's the fast lane. This is where the university and a company work together to invent something new. Here, you absolutely expect to create new IP, and it's shared between them. And to really encourage this, the research team can get special tax-exempt grants.
And what if the university already invented something amazing all on its own? That's where Lane 3 comes in. Think of this as the exit ramp off the bridge. It's the legal tool for technology transfer, which lets the university license or even sell its finished tech directly to a company that can bring it to the market.
So the blueprint is there, the lanes are designed. This bridge should be open for business, right? Well, not so fast. There's been a pretty major roadblock. And here's the bottleneck. See, the MLCTI is a federal law. It's giving the whole country a big green light, shouting, "Go! Build the bridge!" But Brazil is a federation of states, and many of the most important research institutions are governed by state laws. If a state's own innovation laws are out of date and don't match the new federal rules, it creates total chaos. The managers at the state level slam on the brakes, saying, "Wait a minute, our local rules aren't ready for this." And this chart shows you just how big that roadblock really was. As of mid-2020, look at that, a massive majority of Brazilian states had not updated their local laws to match the federal one. I mean, you can't build a national innovation highway if most of the on-ramps are closed for construction. This quote from Brazil's National Confederation of Industry just hits the nail on the head. If the federal and state laws don't line up, there's no legal security. And without that security, the people in charge of public universities are just too nervous to approve these kinds of partnerships. They're afraid of getting into legal trouble later. The whole project just stalls out.
So let's zoom out. Why is finishing this bridge so critical for Brazil?
Why does this all matter so much? Well, the stakes are incredibly high. This number says it all, 62nd. Despite all its scientific talent, that's where Brazil ranked in the 2019 Global Innovation Index. And that's not just a number on a page. It represents a massive missed opportunity, a failure to turn brilliant ideas into economic strength.
But here's the good news. The payoff for getting this right is immense. A fully built, fully functional innovation bridge would be a game changer. It would make Brazilian industry way more competitive, finally turn all that scientific knowledge into real economic value, and spark a wave of new high-tech products. It would even attract global investment and help modernize the country's public services.
So we end up back where we started, but now we see the path forward. The federal blueprint for the innovation bridge is there, it's solid, the materials are ready. The big question now is a local one. Can Brazil's individual states finally get to work, build their on-ramps, and complete the connection to a much more innovative and prosperous future?